What's up guys, I'm Laura from Reading in Bed, and this video is going to be about the Classics Club spin, which is, well, I'll get into it in a sec what that is, but it's just a way to choose the next book I'm going to read, looking forward to December, and then some of my other reading and life plans into December and even into January, just to give you guys a bit of a heads up and talk about it a bit. So firstly, the Classics Club, it's a book blog thing, so some of you may not know. It's just sort of a collective of book bloggers who are all sort of focused on classics, and it's been running for many years, and like their foundational thing is that you're supposed to curate your own list of classics and set yourself a deadline to read them by, but they're serious. So that list has to have at least 50 classics, and your deadline can be anywhere up to 5 years in the future. So this is something I used to do, but then I sort of dropped it because I really subscribe, well, not subscribe, but I use the 1001 books you must read before you die list, which is different than that 1000 books to read before you die that I see going around Booktube right now. It's problematic, but it's just what I'm used to. It's what I like. I've been working with that list since like 2007. So eventually I kind of petered out on the whole Classics Club thing, but one of the recurring events they do that I really enjoy is the Classics Club spin, and it's very simple. To participate, you're just supposed to make a list of 20 classics that you want to read or think you should read or whatever, and the admins at this site will randomly choose a number between 1 and 20 on a certain date, and then you have to read that book, and usually there's a deadline. So this is the 19th spin, and I think I've only done 2 in the past. The theme for this spin is chunksters. So I was crafting my list, and it just sort of highlighted to me all the stuff that I'm planning for December and beyond. Because in addition to trying to choose chunkster classics, I, of course, am trying to choose from the 1001 books list, which is, you know, slightly different than other lists of classics you'll see. But I also like to do rereads in December. So this will be my 3rd year of exclusively rereading in December, and I find that just sort of a good antidote to the rush to like finish all the 2018 books. And I'm seeing that already. I'm seeing people post like stacks of 20 or 30 or more books saying like, these are all the 2018 books I haven't read yet. Which one should I read before the end of the year? And I mean, that's a common thing across blogs and Booktube and whatever. But I don't like to get into that too much. So this is a way to push back against it, I guess. And then my own reading challenge / rules, whatever, this year has been that I'm not reading white authors writing in English, or, said another way, I'm reading either stuff in translation and or written by a person of color, so that's an extra layer. So taking those, that is like 4 rules now that we have for this list. I've quickly found I could not come up with 20. I came up with 5, so I'll just share those really quickly and then talk about some of the other stuff that's coming up. If you want to participate in the spin, I put the links down below. This is already up on my blog, so you can see all the particulars, but they're choosing the number on Tuesday the 27th. So these are in order from newest to oldest. So the first one is The Name of the Rose by Umberto Eco. This is barely a chunkster. It's like just over 500 pages, but like I was struggling already to come up with a list, so it stays. I don't even remember when I read this. I think it was pre-blogging and pre-Booktube, so it'd be interesting to go back to it. It's like kind of a mystery with monks in medieval times. And Umberto Eco was a character in a book I read this year in The Seventh Function of Language by Laurent Binet. I read that for the Man Booker International, and it's sort of, it didn't make fun of him as much as it made fun of some other historical figures, but it'd be kind of cool to revisit him in light of that. Number 2 is The Magic Mountain by Thomas Mann, which I read from the library at the time, and I think I read it while I was pregnant with Henry. And I do remember that it was the 100th book that I could check off of that 1001 books list. So that was a big milestone for me as a new-ish book blogger. Yeah, and like I was in like pregnancy, brain fog, whatever. I don't remember a ton. I do remember it being pretty challenging. It was a bit of a slog, but being in a different place in my life, maybe it'll be a bit easier. I don't know. Number 3 is Anna Karenina by Leo Tolstoy. Now this I definitely read pre-blogging and everything else, and I was trying to look just to see in this edition, like what year it came out. Because this edition first came out in 2000, but like it could be a reprinting. I think this is from 2002, but the biggest clue that this has to be pretty darn early aughts is this back page where it, you know, it says, if you want to look for other Penguin paperbacks from other countries, here's some addresses you can write to, like as in write a letter. Like there's no emails, no URLs. So yeah, this might actually be from the year 2000. But yeah, and I remember like barely anything because it's been so long. Number 4 is The Idiot by Dostoevsky, which I read on a first generation Kobo, and I definitely read that when Henry was an infant. So same thing with the baby brain and whatever. I don't remember a lot of the details, although I remember liking it, and I've since read a lot more Dostoevsky. And then number 5 is Les Miserables, which, you know, pray for me if the number drawn is a 5 or a multiple of 5, because like obviously I'm just going to cycle through this list of 5 if the number is bigger than 5. You know, 1,500 pages. I read it like a million years ago. I know the story because I've seen the movie, but like, Jesus, it's so long. Like, I don't know if I'd be able to finish it this year. So those are my 5. On Tuesday, I will find out which one is going to be kind of my big chunkster reread for December. Some of the other stuff that I'm planning, and you know, some of it I've already talked about. Obviously, the short story advent calendar. I'm planning to do daily videos as I have done for the past few years. Although as it's getting closer, I'm now kind of reconsidering what I want to do with that, because my schedule and my husband's schedule have changed. He is in a new job now, and it's not really practical for me to do that in the morning like I have done the last 3 years. So I used to do it either before the kids got up or with the kids at the breakfast table. Now, the time that would make the most sense would be right after school, like right after work and school, when I'm trying to make supper and trying to get the kids to do their homework, and I'm just envisioning this and like internally screaming already, and it hasn't even started. So I might try doing them as Instagram lives. I don't know. So just stay tuned. I mean, I'm going to do something. Obviously I have the thing. I'm definitely going to read them. I'm definitely going to do something with it, but it may not look exactly the same. So stay tuned for that. And then the third thing I'm kind of looking towards is that, for the first time, I believe I'm on track, or maybe I'm like one book off track now, but for my Goodreads goal, I set it at 100 books this year. I have never read 100 books in a year. Last year, I read 97. That's the closest I've ever come. So like I might actually hit it. And if I do, I may want to do something special, right? To commemorate that. So all of these things, you know, I'm thinking about my classic read, my short story advent calendar, you know, / vlogmas, whatever, my, you know, 100 book goal. All of this is reminding me, you know, very concretely that I'm also planning a very strict and long internet break. Now, if you haven't heard me talk about my feelings about like the internet and the bookish internet and how it affects my reading and all sorts of other things, I do have a video from more than a year ago now, and unfortunately it's very shaky, but it has my thoughts about it, so I'll link that. And it's not even unusual for me. I usually take the month of January off in some fashion, and throughout the year I'll take like week or 2 week breaks from social media. But lately it's just, I don't know, it's building to a point where I'm like, I gotta do something a little more. Because even when I take those breaks, I often end up cheating towards the end. Like I'll start reading tweets again, or I'll be watching Booktube again, even though I'm not like commenting or sharing anything. Which it defeats the purpose. It's like the addiction and the influence is, like a lot of it is sort of like putting yourself out there and being a brand and like, you know, performing. That's part of it, but part of it is also just consuming and the endless scroll, right? So it's both of those things that I'm like, I need to get away from that for a while. I'm just old enough that I remember what it was like before that. I mean, I remember what it was like before the internet at all, but I also remember as an adult what it was like before social media, before blogs, before YouTube, before all of that stuff. And, you know, not that it was some like kind of utopia then or anything, but yeah, anyway, the video if you want to go watch, you can hear more about like the why or what I think about those influences. But suffice to say, I'm taking a big break. It's going to be a lot longer. Like I'm thinking more like 3 months, and a lot more complete in that I want to stay off everything: Twitter, Instagram, Facebook, YouTube, WordPress, even sites that I kind of go to a lot, like LitHub and Book Riot and, well, Reddit, and that's kind of a new one for me. Just stay off it, like completely. And I was thinking one way to kickstart it would be to do a complete internet blackout. And the only way I can do that is when I'm off work. And I am going to be off work from December 24th, or well, I guess like 22nd through January 7th or something like that. So I'm like, okay, let's do a complete blackout other than, you know, like online banking that I need to do for those 2 weeks. And then like come back in a work capacity, but that's pretty much it. But then I'm like, oh, but what if I'm at 99 books on December 23rd and I hit that 100th one on December 26th and I can't like update my Goodreads so that everyone can see and people can hit the like button on it? And, you know, what if I'm not done with the short story advent calendar and I have to do my last video and I have to upload it? And just the fact that I'm like trying to talk myself out of it with those kind of things that don't even really fucking matter is very concerning, and just underlines the fact that I really do need a more comprehensive break from all of this. So yeah, like I'm thinking I'm still gonna do that blackout even if I haven't hit 100 books, even if I'm not done like all the things I plan to do, and then like to take a real break in the new year, like a much longer, probably 3 months kind of a thing, and then come back and hopefully also like reflect a bit and make some changes, because that's something I hadn't done either. Usually when I come back from those breaks, I just go right back to where I was, without any changes or any real, like, you know, I'm just back in the phone addiction, like from square one. So yeah, like there's not going to be a like serious face or tearful goodbye video. This is it, I guess. So I'm just letting you guys know, as we go through December, I'm going to be doing some of the things I just talked about, and then I'm going to go blank. Hopefully, you know, you guys can stay subscribed. I'll probably be back. But it may be back in a slightly different capacity. I don't know. Yeah. So anyways, that's it. Class Club Spin, if you want to participate, you should. The rest of it, I would love to hear your thoughts. If you have taken like a real internet or social media break, and what you thought, and if you made changes after, I'd love to hear about that. Otherwise, thanks for watching.